character, you know, she's a powerful leader. I feel like Star Wars is very like patriarchal.
What the hell are you doing?
Somebody has to save our skins.
It's a funny thing to read Star Wars related posts on X or Twitter, depending on how you want to call it. When it comes to Star Wars, the hottest topic is probably The Acolyte, a Star Wars show for Disney Plus being the prequel to the prequel. Even though Disney once announced they were considering to let Star Wars rest for a while to come up with new fresh ideas, it was so obvious that this wouldn't be lasting for long, as the content machine for Disney Plus needs to be running, especially in times where streaming services are under enormous pressure. So let the content flow, they said, and come up with a new show. In my previous video about The Acolyte, I said the show wasn't that bad, but it wasn't very good either. The Acolyte was mid at most. I don't know, I wasn't able to develop any big feelings on the show, which is funny because I considered myself a big Star Wars fan of the past. I collected the entire fact file and read dozens of books. Star Wars was to me this wonderful unique fantasy universe where I was able to retreat to in good and bad times. Some would say Star Wars saved my life. No, seriously, Star Wars was something special for me. What it made special was to see something new in every iteration, where the original trilogy was the story of the rebellion fighting the Empire and Luke carrying on a forgotten legacy. The prequels told us the story of a young person growing up, torn apart by his emotions and eventually becoming what he initially had sworn to fight, always addressing current political and other events in society. It was the time where filmmakers were able to include the troubles of our society into their work without annoying the viewer too much. The books of the expanded universe were very similar, telling a story of an X-Wing squadron, Admiral Thrawn, the Solo kids growing up, etc. By far, not all of the books were great. There was a lot of trash hidden in the huge pile. However, all in all, it was somewhat concise and good to read. The key point here was in terms of story development, not everything was perfect and some was very cheesy, but overall, you as a person were able to feel with the characters and to understand what they were going through. Then Disney came around with a new trilogy, and I was super excited until I realized they are just warming up the original trilogy once more, but just way worse than I would have imagined. The best outcome of their productions was Rogue One, to be fair, and Solo wasn't too bad to some extent, though here I had to roll my eyes every now and then. When it comes to series on Disney Plus, it is the same recipe over and over again. You tease the viewer with an interesting start and then push your own company values and message through. The fan base starts rioting and Disney blames it on the fans. Some hardcore fans don't even realize they are being insulted by said company, basically calling you dumb for not understanding the message or what they were trying to do. Trust me, Disney, we do understand your message. We get it and we're so tired hearing it. Now here is episode 3 of The Acolyte, giving us a huge load of new informations on the universe and, oh my god, a short musical entry.
The power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
You know, I've been joking since Disney took over that we will eventually see the cast doing some kind of musical. Seriously, it was only a joke. I didn't expect to eventually see it. I thought the famous Christmas special was already a lesson everyone should have learned from. Episode 3 is explaining to us what happened to Oehrchen and May in their childhood, being basically a prequel to the prequel of the prequel. Yet again, existing stories are being warmed up once again, decorated with a little bit of Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Hadland visions, stirred and shoved down the viewer's throat. I have to say though, witches using the Force is nothing new in Star Wars. We already had the Night Sisters well established. It is the way Disney presented these new witches. On the one hand, serious in their lifestyle, their teachings, their views, and being in a slight ideological conflict with the Jedi Order. A Jedi Order thinking they have something to say on a planet which isn't even a member of the Republic. This group of witches is in fact an interesting idea to explore on. Personally, I always found stories where we explore Force users not belonging to the Jedi or Sith very interesting. However, my interest was dwindling when I almost died from cringe during the ritual. With such a well-organized coven, I would have expected some serious rituals, something dark and mysterious. Nothing necessarily dangerous, but something that makes you curious and interested. Instead, Disney starts something like a musical. Oh my god, you must be kidding me. You had me that one moment and all of a sudden just pushed pushed me off that cliff. And it was not only the music, the overacting just made me check that nobody can see through the window what I'm currently watching. Usually you only shut the window blinds when watching porn, right? Then they introduced a very convenient plot hole. After Oehrchen agreed only 20 seconds were needed to complete the ritual, instead the witches aborted their doing to welcome the Jedi and talk to them. They weren't being a threat or fighting their way through the coven. The Jedi could have waited for a few more minutes for everything to settle, I would guess. Obviously this convenient issue had been introduced, otherwise the rest of the story couldn't happen. Coming to the next piece of the story, we are again talking about warming up old material. In this case, we're warming up Star Wars Episode 1. Remember Anakin having no father, his mom having no explanation how she got pregnant with him? The Jedi didn't consider this just being drunk sex after a party at the cantina in Mos Espa. It was something they found unusual, and the plot tried to explain to us Anakin being something special, maybe the chosen one, and eventually bringing balance. Looking at the Witch Coven and the explanation behind Mace and Oehrchen's existence, this doesn't seem to be a special thing at all. Want a baby? No problem. Ask a witch to use the Force to create one for you. Easy as that, and some would say, barely an inconvenience. Okay, I get it. Maybe it wasn't that special overall, and the Jedi just buried this piece of information in their archives. Especially after that witch coven got destroyed just a few minutes later. How convenient. I do understand the necessity to introduce some kind of trauma for May, for her to move to the dark side. But here is the thing, you can come up with something better. Why on earth are walls that look like made out of steel or stone burning like that? How does fire come through a blast door? And how can you manage that by just burning a book? It just didn't make sense, and this scene felt and looked as if it had been cut to death. Maybe during editing, valuable scenes were deleted, which could have explained this. In one moment we see May burning the diary, next frame we see the hallway and the door burning as if it was wood or fabric. To all the Acolyte defenders, no, the Acolyte is not good. Once again, old stories are being warmed up. The added pieces do not make sense at all or are just absolutely cringe. I'm not saying I could have done this better. I probably wouldn't, but on the other hand, I'm neither a professional filmmaker or writer. It is not my job, and I'm not getting paid for this. It is Disney and their crew earning a shit ton of money with this profession. For me, The Acolyte is yet another example of the state of Star Wars. Disney is just producing cheap content for their platform to stop people from leaving, and with cheap, I am not talking about the price. I feel sorry though for the cast. In my opinion, you see they are trying to do the best they can, and the problem could be they might be burned for the coming years in this industry. I don't know. Apparently Star Wars is just dead. Well, that is all I have for today. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.